In today's video, we got an epic battle between the 50 and 35mm lenses. And these we're talking cropped sensor cameras, but there's also the 35mm on a full frame, but well, I'll explain it. And we're gonna do it in the fancy way. We're gonna hit the streets of Bologna in Italy, and I'm gonna show you every situation we can find in which the 35 or the 50 would be better, in my opinion. But most importantly, by the end, you're gonna be able to have your own opinion if you should get one or another. Hi, I'm Henry, and in this channel we talk about photo, video and tech. And welcome to Bologna! So usually the questions are, which one is better or which one should I get? But the answer is that you have to see them in action. So our gear for today is like this. So today we're going to be using a Canon 750D or T6i, which is a APS-C sensor camera with 24 megapixels from 2015. We are going to be using the Canon 35 2.0 lens and the famous 50mm 1.8. So now back to you. Quick disclaimer, this video was shot during 2 days and this happened in the middle. So there are two main categories of things that we have to consider when choosing a lens. The first one is what the lens can physically do. And this means the field of view, so how wide or how tight this lens is. The second one is the blurriness, how much can it blur the background. And the third one is compression, how much this lens can bring what's on the background closer to our subject. And this is the category we're going to be talking about today, because the second one is something that has to be treated on each case, which is how well this lens performs. And for this we can even have, for example, two 35mm lenses from the same brand performing totally different from each other. In this category we have things like sharpness, distortion, how much flare this lens produces, chromatic aberration, and even how well its autofocus performs. So now that you know what we're going to be talking about today, let's begin with number one, which is field of view. Alright, so first up we have to understand what are these numbers. And both of these are the focal length of the lens, either 35 or 50, meaning the zoom. And in both of these, it can't be changed, they are fixed. So here, your choice is about how much of the scene around you do you want to see. Now there's a trick involving this. The field of view with the same lens will change depending on the camera you got. On the left, you can see the 35 on a full frame camera, such as a Canon 5D or a Sony A7 something. And on the right, you can see the same lens but on a cropped sensor camera, so it looks like it's zoomed in a little bit. At about 50% for cameras that are called APS-C. And this is important right now for you to know, because all the examples in this video are shot with the APS-C camera. And if you look anyone's picture online, you have to pay attention to which camera model they're using to understand if the lens would do the same in your camera or not. Alright, so we just sat in a cafe and you're gonna see that to take pictures of food, both lenses are doing pretty well. Then I took a picture of my model today, and you're gonna notice that with the 35 you can see a little bit of around, you can see also the cafe. But the 50 is very tight, being just one table, small table apart like this. In case you're wondering how to do a picture with a little bit of more context, this one was shot at 28 full frame, meaning about 18mm on a crop sensor. So it's kind of like using the kit lens wide open. And the third picture is just one of the cafe, and both lenses work pretty well, with the 50 being a little bit more cropped in, a little bit more detailed. Now if you're in a cool cafe and you want to show the surroundings a little bit more, the 35 will make it easier. If you want to show the expressions of your model a bit better, then the 50 is the way to go. Okay, so now we're in this square and you're going to be able to see at the same time how far I am from our model and what could I see inside the camera. First up, we got the 35mm lens. I'm standing 3 steps away from her and the church in the background is 40 meters away, more or less. The first shot is waist up and the second is a medium shot. For whole body, I'd have to be 5 steps away, more or less, and to get also the church about 8 steps away. Okay, so now let's change to the 50 and take the first shot from the same initial position. Here I had to choose to cut her arms or the top of the church.
Now in the middle.
Okay, done. Alright, so now for the second point on our list, we're gonna talk about compression. And what is this? You can check when the model is exactly the same size on both pictures and we're using the 35 and the 50, the background seems to come forward. So you can see that the pillars and everything else that was in the back, when you're shooting with the 50, looks much closer to her. And this can be really good if you really want to show what's in the back. Just to be clear, the model was exactly in the same position in both pictures, but I had to move forward a little bit with the 35 to frame the same way. Now check out these two details. See the window and the pillar. See how they move forward much closer to the subject. See how they look much closer with the 50. This is the compression. And yes, if you're paying good attention, you just realize that you've seen it before. So let's take a look again at those pictures, at the square with the church. Check out how the church looks massively bigger when you were shooting with the 50mm. Exactly, compression. And there's one more thing you have to pay attention about this, which is when you're shooting portraits. The shape of the head changes a lot. And to show you this more precisely, let's go to the studio. Okay, so now we got two portraits straight on, one with the 35 and one with the 50. Can you see how on the 35 the ears are pushed back a little bit, and on the 50 the face is a little bit more roundy and looks a little bit more natural? Well, I can actually say that the 50 looks more natural. That's the truth. But let's take a look at a little bit more extreme example. Let's see the same picture at 10mm and 85mm. Looks like what's in the center remains, but everything that is around is kind of like pushed back. It's kind of like folding a paper just like this. Okay, last but not least, bokeh or blurriness, which is probably the main reason why people pick up one of these lenses. But in this case, the focal length is not really the most important thing. The two main components here are the aperture of the lens, meaning the size of the hole that lets light shine through, and also the distance between photographer and model and background. So you need to know how to use this to get the results that you want. Regarding apertures, the bigger you go, the blurrier it's gonna be. So 1.8 is gonna be better than 2.8, which is gonna be better than 3.5, for example. And regarding distance, the bigger the difference, the blurrier it's gonna be. So let's go get some example shots. Now for this example, we are 2 steps away from the subject, and the subject is 2 steps away also from the background. And you can see the 35 on the left and the 50 on the right. Also, because of compression, you end up seeing the bokeh balls a little bit bigger, but you can also notice the blurriness that you can see on the 50 is a little bit higher than the one on the 35, even shooting at the same aperture. Now for the second example, we take 1 step forward, so now we are 1 step away from the subject and they remain 2 steps away from the background. And you can see that now we push the depth of field a little bit narrower, so on the right you can see the difference on the blurriness and the bokeh and everything a little bit more accentuated in respect to the first one, which is the 35. Alright, so now which one is better, the 35 or the 50? Well, it depends. If you're worried about showing more of the surroundings, if you're gonna be shooting tighter spaces, or if you just enjoy the versatility really, the 35 is probably your pick. Now if you're more into portraits, detail shots, and you really like the compression, probably the 50 is gonna do better for you. And what if you liked both but you don't know which cases you're gonna be facing more often? Well, then I really suggest you to try to borrow it from a friend or even rent these lenses to try them out. Now if you have no shops around, nor friends, and you're on a tight budget, usually the 50 is a cheaper choice. But if you got a bit more cash to burn, then the 35 is a safe and versatile choice, and you could go 2.0, 1.8, 1.4, the brighter you could get. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments or doubts, please write in the comment box below. And if you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao!